We're here in Berlin, Germany. I'm at the Nextcloud Community Conference. There's a whole bunch of cool things going on, some keynotes, lightning talks, but the primary thing that I'm most interested in is the release of Nextcloud Hub 9. This right here is just the media room. This whole building is the Motion Lab in Berlin. If we look out here real quick, it looks like we're just in like a warehouse environment. But when you actually come into the building, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. There's 3D printers everywhere. There's a big conference area to do presentations and announcements. And there's this big bus thing that has a whole recording studio in it. Full disclosure, Nextcloud did partially sponsor the travel expenses for this trip, as well as some of the travel expenses for the last one, the Nextcloud Hub 4 release that we saw just over a year ago. And it's at that one that they announced some of their new AI features and a bunch of stuff like that. So I'm really curious to seeing what they have coming up in this release. And it starts in just about 30 minutes, so let's go downstairs and check it out. And before I get into Nextcloud Hub 9, I do need to talk a little bit about the conference. It was awesome. A whole lot of presentations on just how wonderful open source is and breaking the chains of like Google and Microsoft when it comes to products like this. And the lightning talks. The lightning talks were great. There were a bunch of people that went up, talked about either their specific Nextcloud application or different projects that they're working on. There were definitely some fascinating ones. And a really cool thing is all of this is available online on the Nextcloud YouTube channel for you to go ahead and check out. I was even able to sit down with Julius, one of the key developers and creator of Nextcloud Deck, which is my personal favorite piece of this suite of software. I got to ask him how it came about, some of the plans or some of my requests for the future. It was great, and again, we'll get into that. Do note there will be timestamps down below, so you could skip this next section if you want to, which I'm going to wind it back a little bit and talk about what is Nextcloud. Nextcloud started primarily as just a file sharing platform similar to Dropbox, where you and your team can collaborate on files, upload, have project folders. Pretty simple, but over time they've added more and more and more functionality. Now it includes Collaborate Office, which is a full office suite with collaborative features similar to something like a Google Docs. They have a whole bunch of Groupware products, so you can have your email, calendar, contacts, all that in there. You have Notes, you have Deck, which is a really simple project management tool, To-Dos, Collectives, which is a wiki, just a whole bunch of things, whether if you're using it either for yourself and your own personal kind of management, or if you're using it to run a business, which is what I'm doing, as much as you could call this a business. Last time I went to one of these Nextcloud announcements, they brought up a lot of their new AI integrations. It has a bunch of the now typical things you'd expect in something like that, such as a chatbot, translations. Actually, I can kind of show you real quick. This is Nextcloud, and it's actually Hub 9. I'll get into that. But if you click right here, this is the Nextcloud Assistant. You can use it to generate text, chat with AI, transcribe audio, reformulate text, generate bunch of different kind of AI stuff. So that's included, and you do need to set it up either with a third-party service or with your very own self-hosted AI. But overall, it's a fantastic thing, and it's one of the many tools that you can use to get away from some of those proprietary services and just the whole software as a service model. So with that brief introduction, we're going to talk about what they announced in Hub 9, and it is quite a bit. So first, and the most obvious thing when you first sign in, there are some slight visual improvements. They mostly went ahead and made things more compact, easy to follow. Buttons and input fields have been downsized. Just overall, there's a much better utilization of the space that we see here. And one thing you'll notice is right here, there is now all folders, and we have a whole file tree that we can use to easily navigate various directories within our Nextcloud instance. So I can easily jump to like this Computex folder, or maybe this Cases folder, which has a variety of videos in here. Makes it really nice, and there's a bunch of speed improvements too. You could see how quickly I could jump between things, and they really did a lot to improve the speed and performance in this as well. And I will leave a link down below to their full kind of release notes and blog posts, so you could get some real in-depth details on that if you're interested. But another thing is, if I go over to our dashboard here, this is the default look. One, there's a new background. They haven't done that in a while. This is actually a dynamic background. And what that means is when you upload your very own backgrounds, the actual UI and interface of Nextcloud will match the color scheme of the background, so it's going to look great depending, or no matter really what background you go ahead and add to the software. I'm going to go ahead and add a background real quick, just this random stock photo I found. Let's open that up, and there we go. We can see it change the background color automatically. We can see it bleeding through here, and just overall, no matter what I set this to, things look great. Now, one thing they added which is big is called Whiteboard here. There's not much settings going on at the moment, but if I quickly head over to the actual all-in-one instance, this is how you go ahead and enable it. Now, I did have to switch to the beta channel at the moment to get this. They're still working on the master container all-in-one, updating it to the new Nextcloud Hub. But all you do, just like some of these other add-ons, is you enable Whiteboard right here, and it will automatically put it in and set up everything for you, which is great. Whiteboard is a new collaborative tool similar to something like Microsoft Whiteboard, where it gives you a blank canvas to develop things like forms, diagrams, roadmaps. I would use it to build like my networking map for my whole home system. And then here we could go to new whiteboard, call it whatever you want. I'm just gonna hit create. And again, this is collaborative, so you could have multiple people working on this at the same time, and has all the features you'd expect. If I go over here, for example, we could go to a new shape. Let's add this one, draw it out. We can add a background to it, double click on it, add some text. So I could go like that, move it around, and build really exactly what I need. You can add images, a whole bunch of different things. I could go to the laser pointer tool, which is pretty cool. It will help you out in presentations and things like that. So that is Whiteboard. I'm really looking forward to using that and actually building out my network map with it. It's going to be fun. Now, the next big announcement, and it's slightly above my skill set, so I'm not going to actually open it up in here, but that is Nextcloud FOLOW. This is an automation tool based on Windmill, an open source developer platform that you can use to turn scripts into workflows and UIs. FOLOW in Nextcloud will help automate repetitive tasks in Nextcloud and some of their integrated applications with a graphical interface to design, manage, and monitor workflows.
So let me show you how this looks. This is just an example. It's usually always starts with some kind of event. Something comes in. Again, someone wants to have, I don't know, apply for a new passport or something. And then some kind of process is going through, something happens, and then something is maybe called stored in Nextcloud tables and then approved later. So it's quite a standard flow chart, basically, that you can model here in a graphical way. And of course, the backend of all these actions are all the Nextcloud functionalities you already know and use every day. For example, Nextcloud Mail. Obviously, Nextcloud Mail is very good with receiving, sending emails and managing emails. So we built an API that is all can be automated and scriptable. So you can receive mails, you can pass mails, you can check the signatures, you can generate a mail a response and so on. So this all can be very automated and very easy. Another example is forms. So Nextcloud Forms is an application where you can build all kinds of forms and you can put in data, and then we extended it now that the data is submitted with such a form can be stored directly in Nextcloud tables for further processing. And we also extended Nextcloud Forms that a form that is generated is embeddable in other web pages. So for example, if you're a city and you want to make it possible that on the city website, you register to some event or apply for childcare, kindergarten place or something, then this can be done via form from Nextcloud Forms directly on the website of the city in a very easy way.
Now, those are the really new things. Now I'm going to go into some of the improvements throughout the entire system and some of the pre-existing applications, other than the overall speed and performance improvements, which I touched on a little bit. And the first one is files. If I do go over here and go to files, and let's say our documents, for example, they added a much better filtering process. So right here we have type modified people. So if I want to filter it by type, I could switch it by like the last 7 days, which is only the new whiteboard that we just created. And then people, I can filter by who actually created the various documents. And in addition, I could actually do a file request. So if I go to new right here, I can create a file request. This is brand new. So I could do a subject, need this script. You set the upload location of where you want the file to be. You can add a note, and we can say Proxmox video 2 is needed. And then from there we could continue. Here is we can set an expiration date for this request if we want to. We could set a password if that's something you need. If I continue from there, I can then do a share link for this specific request, and I can send this share link via email. So that is a really nice addition. And then going over to the actual Office applications, we now have a variety of PDF templates and a new form filling API, making it easy to fill in timesheets, government documents, and even create charts with data from your documents. And this API can scan a PDF form and give you all the fields in a really nice graphical interface. The presentation tool, or the alternative to like slides or PowerPoint, got a few improvements. One, some nice little cool 3D transitions, which is, I mean, if you want them, you got them. But really the big improvement is loading times have been substantially increased with these presentations. Now I just went and added it real quick. This is Nextcloud Tables. I haven't really been using it because it's been missing a feature that they just added. I'm going to go ahead and create a new table. We do have a good amount of kind of presets right here. I'm just going to select vacation requests, for example. Let's create the table. Now right here under employee name. Now this wasn't really that great because just employee name and approved by the boss. That's just random text variables. Go over here and create a new column. Now right here, type. We can now go ahead and select users and groups instead, which will allow us to actually select actual people and notify them if they're in this table. So this is going to be the employee name. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now it is right here. And now when I edit this, instead of just having, well, I would have to move these around to get it to line up properly. But instead of like the boss, be able to select a specific user in our instance. Very nice. So now for things that won't quite work with Nextcloud Decks, for basically things I need custom variables for, this might be a decent replacement for that since I can actually add users to it. And then next up here we have Nextcloud Talk. Now, this has gotten a really cool update, mostly to do with their federation. If you don't know, federation is a system in which various instances, separate Nextcloud instances on different servers, have the ability to communicate with each other. Makes it really easy to share files between them, things like that. It's very similar to like a Mastodon. If you're on one Mastodon instance, for example, I'm on Fostodon, or if you happen to be on mastodon.social, we can still communicate with each other and see each other's posts within kind of the same interface. It's wonderful. Nextcloud has similar features, and now they made it so you can do actual voice and video calls between different federated instances of Nextcloud. So you can set up a video call on your very own personal Nextcloud instance with somebody else on either a company or their own instance without having to create multiple accounts and all that stuff. Oh, and if you really like Apple and really like to waste money, the two kind of go hand in hand, and you have an Apple Vision Pro, you can now access Nextcloud Talk with the Vision Pro. I talk shit, but it's really cool, and Nextcloud that I know of is the first like open source company that is actually kind of leaning into newer technology like that. And then from there, Groupware. I don't have email set up on my personal instance, but I do have contacts. I'm actually not going to be able to show any of this, as well as calendar, but their Groupware stuff has gotten some cool additions, including follow-up reminders, search filters, and end-to-end encryption within mail, much better event windows within calendar, and the ability to display rooms and resources. In contacts, they made it easy to delete and rename groups, send emails to an entire group, as well as adding a replacement person if you do set yourself out of office. And something really handy, the ability for emails to automatically get scanned for phishing attempts and detect that and let you know if that might be a problem. Now, as for their actual software clients, those have gotten some improvements as well. Most notably, the iOS and Windows applications have gotten a design overhaul, making it look much more native compared to the web interface. And a really big feature in both iOS and Android is the ability to have two-way syncing. So you could set up folders that have that two-way syncing capability and use that basically however you want. In my head, it automatically jumps to being maybe a possible future alternative to something like Google Photos. Just set up your main camera folder as a two-way sync to a folder on Nextcloud for photos. Hey, that's something I'm definitely going to have to test out. And out of all this, I really truly only scraped the surface of everything that they announced. There's a bunch of partnerships that they started with some of the big names in email servers. Again, performance has been dramatically improved. I can even notice it in this beta channel. Please do go check out their official blog post to learn a heck of a lot more, or just watch the entire announcement. That's honestly what I'd personally recommend. It was wonderful. Compared to, especially when I first started using this a couple years back, it has gotten so good that it is really truly a viable alternative. Alternative's not even the right word anymore. It's a viable competitor to Microsoft and Google, at least in this space of software. And after seeing the improvements, I'm even going to lean into it a little bit more. Like I said, try to get more involved using the Groupware and their mail client so then I can fully grasp its power. Now, the one thing that wasn't announced or that there was no real changes with, which made me sad, is Nextcloud deck. I did mention that I do have deck over here. I've been using other tools and stuff because it hasn't gotten some of the features that I need and want. If I go over here to projects, this will look a little bit better. You can see 3 months ago, 2 months ago, and that's because there's no custom fields. If I go to a project such as Linux on a tablet, I've uploaded this video. All we get is the tags, the user, a date, and a description field. You also have attachments and comments, which is really cool, as well as activity, but that's it. There's no ability to add custom fields, and before I used this, I was using Notion, and that you could just customize it however the hell you want, basically. So I had the opportunity to sit down with, again, Julius and ask him about the potential of this. So what I'm going to do real quick, it's only an audio only interview, but I'm going to play some snippets of it, some things that I deem important. So here you go.
Yep, I'm Julius. I'm team lead of the office team, but also still doing like regular engineering works as part of that. And yeah, mainly working on the Office Suite integrations that we have, like Collabra online as Nextcloud Office, working with OnlyOffice, and all the apps that we consider for collaborative work, like text collectives, Whiteboard. Deck is also part of our team, the Notes app. Yeah.
Personally, out of all those, the app that I probably use the most often is the Deck app.
Okay.
Because
happy to hear that.
Yeah, right. I was using. I tried a lot of different things. I tried Trello, Monday.com, all these things, but I really just wanted that kind of simple, kind of Kanban setup. The question is, I haven't seen like any major updates on it in quite a while. Like the last thing I think I saw was the being able to basically embed files from Files app on Nextcloud, which is really cool. Is there any kind of planned new features or anything that's being worked on or tested with it?
Yeah, so I mean, we haven't yet fully settled on our release plans for the next one, but we already had some discussion around like basically putting a bit more effort into the deck again, because we've seen, like, we did a community survey also beginning of the year, if I remember it correctly, and there were like deck was pretty obviously in one of the mostly used apps or apps that people basically enjoy using. So this is the reason why we might look more into that. Like, no concrete plans. But it's not out of our track, definitely.
It's nice because, like all these other third-party apps, it's just having everything kind of built in to the same ecosystem and talk to each other and all. That's really cool. If I may provide the one thing that I see that would make it like kind of a competitor to like Monday is having customizable fields. That would be the huge thing, that because then it would be on the same level, because with like Trello and Monday and all those, you can kind of like you would with like tables or just an Excel spreadsheet, make custom columns and then have a like project templates. And that's kind of something in Notion too, is the ability to, so it's not really a question, more of a suggestion.
No, sure. There has been some discussion already about that kind of a feature on GitHub already. I think it kind of makes sense also because it gives you more of a like dynamic ability to structure your data and sort it or like filter for it.
I'm not a developer. I'm more of a consumer that reviews and checks stuff out. So like tables is really cool. Are you on the?
Also involved in that in our team. Yeah.
Feels like that there could be. It feels, I'm not a developer, and I might be way overreaching, but it feels like between like tables, deck, and even like to do, there could be kind of like a mutual integration between all of them with how like the data is set up. Because like in tables, if there's like a for like the progress of a project, because that's one thing for basic projects, I set up most things in deck, but if something needs custom fields at the moment, I'll put it in tables and just kind of have one of the variables as the progress of that project.
There are certainly some discussions we already had around it, also because like you could imagine tables just being like storage backend for all the other apps, like for Deck, for example. Like one thing we always try to avoid at Nextcloud is to have too much of hard cross-app dependencies,
Yeah.
because we like to stay modular, and like if there is a user that just has this one use case, rather simple one, then it should just work with having that one app enabled.
Yeah.
But there are definitely thoughts around that. I mean, for deck and tasks, for example, we had like a few releases back, at least like the read support for CalDAV, which is not as useful yet. But yeah, like a write support would be the next step, so that your deck or your if you use deck for task management, you could basically also make use of a CalDAV client for that. And also had a chat with someone around here at the conference that had the nice idea that if you have checklist items in your description, you could also consider that a subtask, for example, and then make that also sync in both ways. Yeah, but yeah, so far I think there are some nice ideas floating around there. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see as a developer integrating some of them. It's not the easiest thing.
Yeah,
to do.
especially if you want to have this two-way sync, where, like for the CalDAV example. There is not like a one-to-one representation in the deck data format to what's available in the CalDAV standard, for example.
Okay, yeah. So, and then to actually do that, you'd have to go through and actually make that compatibility.
Yeah.
And my main questions were about deck. So, is there anything else you want to add or?
Nothing in particular. I mean, I'm personally quite happy that to meet deck users all the time, because that was actually like I started that as a community project before I joined the company, and then. It's like kind of my app baby that I brought with me, so always happy to see that people like it and make use of it.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's it. I do appreciate it.
So it really is promising that they are taking the custom field thing seriously, and even acknowledging that many of the features that are requested with deck could just simply be solved with custom fields. I do understand it's a lot of work, and having too many of these applications kind of intertwine with each other could add problems in the future. But even if it's a completely separate thing, having those custom fields to be able to set variables for, like myself, instead of just a due date, have a due date for specific parts of a task. Have various fields for if a video is sponsored or not, who's the sponsor. A field for links for resources. For me, there would be a lot of use cases in that, but hopefully that's a thing that does come soon. So yeah, that's what's new with Nextcloud Hub 9. I really enjoyed the conference. If you're able, go to the one next year. I'm not sure if they're going to do it again, but there was a section where they can, if you're actually like a part of the community and contribute, they were offering some travel assistance. So do keep your eye out for that, especially if you do contribute to the actual software, or if you're heavily involved in this community somehow. And once this full thing is out of the beta channel, I do plan on updating my Nextcloud all-in-one installation guide to show you how easy it is to get this up and running locally, or whatever it may be. So just do make sure you subscribe, ring that bell so you do not miss the Nextcloud full installation guide going over everything, what all the containers are and do. I'm going to go really in depth for you guys. And yeah, with all that, I do hope you have an absolutely beautiful day, and goodbye.